Hi, how's it going? It's been some time since my last video, I know. I'm here, I'm back. I think it depends on how YouTube is going, I don't know, to evolve these next weeks, month, whatever. By the way, this is a reminder to um, watch this video on your computer so you can use um, an ad block so you don't give YouTube any money. This is also your reminder to cancel your YouTube subscription if you have one to YouTube Premium, to call YouTube or send any kind of email complaining about the use of AI to supposedly identify who's a minor and who's not a minor and all that stuff, because what they are doing is unacceptable. Simply just putting it that way. So yeah, with that reminder out of the way, today I want to talk about certain books that I find very underrated, especially in like the booktube sphere. So yeah, these are I'm going to recommend you some books that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, especially in like the English speaking sphere, for various reasons. Some of these books are translated works, and some of these other books are just not that talked about, I guess. Or maybe I just saw one booktuber or one person on the internet, on Goodreads or whatever, talking about these books, and it's like, yeah, well, one person talked about it. That's really not enough, especially when you look on Goodreads, the ratings, and it's like, oh, only like 1,000 people or 10,000 people read this, and it's like, oh, it's not as famous as I thought it was. So yeah, let's start. The first book I want to talk about is The Dear Ones by Berta Dávila. This book is quite short, and it's about a mother who's deciding to abort the second, I guess, fetus. I don't know. Like, she's been a mother for 5 years, and now she's pregnant again, and she decided to get an abortion for this fetus. And the book talks about, well, motherhood, abortion, about postpartum depression, and it was a book that literally blew my mind. It's very, like I said, it's very short, it's very like raw, it's very to the point, and honestly, it's not a horror book. It's literary fiction, like normal literary fiction, but it genuinely made me scared. Like, I've been more scared reading that book than reading some horror books that the idea is for them to scare you. So that's like, I don't know, the way it talks about pregnancy and the realities of becoming a mother, and of course, like, she has a postpartum disorder, but still, it's like the way it's explained and the way she talks about like how she became, like how she was a person before she gave birth, and then when she had her first child, it's like she stopped being a person and she became a mother, and how generally terrifying that is. And I don't know, I really love this book. If you can deal with the topics it presents, like if it isn't triggering for you, I highly recommend it. By the way, now I noticed I didn't mention two things. The first thing is, all of these books are going to be like literary fiction, because I would have to make a separate video for like fantasy recommendations and stuff like that. So in this video, it's pretty much all literary fiction, and I think one thriller, but because I haven't read enough mystery thrillers to make an entire video for them. And the second thing is that, yeah, you're probably going to hear some traffic noises. It's extremely hot in here, so yeah, I'm not going to close the window for my physical and mental health. The second book I want to talk about is called Afternoon at McBurger's by Anna Galvañ. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, like the N in the end is like, okay. Yeah, so this is a graphic novel, a comic. It's very short too, because it's a comic. In general, comics, even if they are long, they are easier to read because it's mostly the illustrations, right? So this one is pretty like weird, like very, I don't know, it has a lot of surrealism. It's basically about these three friends who are, I think they are 11, right? Because they go to this kind of like McDonald's, which has a special like menu from ages 11 and up. So they go there because like, oh, we are 11 already, we can take this menu, and it lets you travel through time. You can only take this menu once, and it lets you travel through time, like past and future, 3 instances like of your life, whether it is past or future. You can travel 3 times, and I think it had like a time limit of 5 minutes or something like that, more or less. I guess I'm not sure, but it was something like that, and it was amazing. Like I said, it's also short, so it's like something you could experience. Like it wouldn't take you more than like an afternoon. And I don't like I generally remember I don't remember that much about this book because I read it in like 2019, I think. But I generally remember like finishing the comic, and with the ending it has, I was like, oh my god, what the fuck. And it was great, and I think more people should read it because it's really, I don't know, like I don't know if it's talking about like friendship, but like toxic family dynamics. I remember something like that, and I think it also talked about like murder or something, or like the meaning of life. Or maybe I'm just making shit up, I don't know. But I remember it having like a lot of things to say about life, and it said it in a very like weird, like I guess maybe even psychedelic way. So another book that at least most people think it's like very weird is I Crawled Through It by A.S. King. I would recommend anything by A.S. King. I also read Everybody Sees the Ends years ago, and I also loved it. And I read this one like this month. Yeah, this literally this month. In my head, because I watch a lot of books on Lala, this author is like super famous and like a lot of people know her. But I actually looked through her Goodreads, and the most popular book of hers has like 20,000 ratings. And it was like, oh, so people don't actually know that much about her. They don't actually know, not that many people know about this author. For example, this book in specific has like 3,000 ratings. I was like, how? But whatever. So yeah, this book is weird. For me, it wasn't that weird. It's not like I understood literally every scene of it, but I think I got the gist of it pretty easily. And it's also a book that when you finish it and you have like all the pieces together in your mind, you can kind of see the picture better than while you're reading the book. At least for me, that was my experience. I remember like finishing it and being like, oh wait, so this means this and that means that and this means this, and if this is this then that is that, and stuff like that. So yeah, if I had to make like a synopsis, I would say it's about like these four teenagers who are very like ignored in their everyday lives, who feel like excluded from, I don't know, being like normal people. They feel, well, yeah, I don't know, like they feel misunderstood, and it's basically about the different ways they try to cope with that. Some of them try to, I don't know, be bigger than humanity in a way, like being bigger than everyone else, like, oh, we are so superior like intellectually. Some others try to hide themselves, some others try to like conform, I guess, to what others expect them to do. And I don't know, it's great. I don't want to talk more about it because like I said, it's very like surrealist and weird, I guess, because for example, one of the characters builds an invisible helicopter, or invisible for some people, other people can see it, so they can like travel and go somewhere else where they feel understood. And yeah, I don't know, it has these like weird elements, but I think if you're paying attention, it's easy to understand what the author is trying to say. It's also very short, and the chapters are very like to the point too. I read this as an audiobook, but like the chapters themselves are very like short. Like every chapter is like 2 minutes long or 3 minutes long. The longest chapters are like 11 minutes long. So I would say that as a reading experience, like physically reading it or digitally, you guys get what I mean. I would say it's like, yeah, like very to the point, even if you are like actually reading the words. And yeah, I think it's a very like interesting piece about grief, about being misunderstood, about escapism, and I would recommend it to pretty much everyone. It's true that you should probably look up the trigger warnings because there is triggering content. The first things I can think about right now is that it talks about sexual assault, and it also talks about like school shootings and those kinds of tragedies. So yeah, if the content is not triggering for you, it absolutely 100% recommend. Now, for something contemporary, more like lighthearted, there's I'll Be the One But Lyla Lee. So this one is about this teen girl who wants to participate in a K-pop contest. Like, what was it called? Produce 101, I think. Those ones that had controversy because the voting system was rigged. But yeah, she wants to participate in one of these contests because she's really good at dancing. I'm pretty sure she also was like pretty decent at singing too, even though it wasn't like her main thing. But the thing is that she's fat, and the K-pop industry in general is very well known for being quite fat phobic. So she has to go through that and to prove like that she should be able to participate in these types of contests and even win. Like like she has the talent, and that's what's actually important, and not like, oh no, you're too fat or whatever, you should lose weight, blah blah blah, because this is not acceptable or whatever. It also talks a little bit about like her relationship with her mom, because the mom also has these types of like ideas about the weight and what's acceptable to do if you're fat or not. So yeah, they have a little bit of like a strained relationship. But like I said, this is also like her book. This is romance with this guy who's like kind of famous, and like the relationship is very cute. It also talks a little bit about the homophobia because both the protagonist and the love interest are bisexual. There's also a lot about friendship because she makes some friends from the competition, and they like spend time together, and they are friends. So it also talks about like these friendships and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a book that is very good at like talking about this serious stuff with the seriousness it deserves, while also being quite lighthearted with the romantic moments, the friendship moments, and all that stuff. Another book that's contemporary and it's pretty lighthearted, but it's also able to tackle heavier topics. It's Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. This one is about this teenage boy who's also fat, like in the other book, who has this kind of like crush on his neighbor, and in like what was the spring break? Was the summer break? I think it was spring break because like the original title in Portuguese is 15 dias, and that means 15 days. So they were together for like 15 days. So the parents of the other boy are on vacation. Yeah, they're some kind of like vacation or like business trip, and he needs to sleep somewhere. They don't let him just be alone in the house, so they ask the mother of the protagonist to if he can like stay in their house. So she accepts, and the book is about these 15 days while the other boy is in their house, and they are like talking, and they are like spending time together because even though the protagonist has like this kind of crush on this guy, it's been like a few years since they've ever spoken to each other. So yeah, this book is really about like homophobia, fatphobia, and how and like the experience of getting friends, of like, I don't know, this happened to me. I don't know if this is like relatable to some other people, but it's like when you've spent most of your high school years not really having friends, or maybe you have some people you kind of get along with, but it's it's a difficult thing to say, oh yeah, they're like friends, right? Like they are people who I would, I don't know, die for. I mean, not literally, but people who you feel that strong to, and then at the end of your teenage years, or even after, you start to really like find people who really get you as a human being and who you truly connect to. And this book is really also about that, how the protagonist is kind of Felipe, that's his name, how he's kind of like isolated from his peers, and how in this book he like kind of finds his friend group, and about how that can change you as a person, and like the importance of having a group of people who understand you and who you can relate to and like share your feelings and other stuff. And yeah, but also it's a very like cute romance between these two guys, and I don't know, it's very cute and I really recommend it. Obviously I really recommend everything I'm talking about, that's the point of this video, but whatever things I just say out loud. Another important book that is also kind of like hard. I'm really just going through like a marathon of these kinds of books in this like almost like mini section, would be Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl by I don't know, Joya Goffney. I'm not sure how that name's pronounced because when I read it, the first thing that comes to my mind is Joya, as in jewel in Spanish, so whatever. This book is about Monique, who's the daughter of a priest, and she's been always in like the evangelical church, and it's really about like how she discovers she has a condition called vaginosis. I think that was how it was pronounced. If not, well, I leave it on the screen, like the name, the actual name, which makes her unable to have penetrative sex, and her boyfriend breaks up with her because he's like, oh, we've been trying to do this like 100 times, and you are never able to do this, so like I can't do this anymore. Call me back when you are able to have sex, basically. And how, well, she obviously feels the same about this, and it's kind of like her journey to understand what's going on with her, and kind of like unlearning all this toxic stuff that the church taught her about, like how she's supposed to give sex to like her boyfriend slash future husband, like that's something she's supposed to owe to the person she's with, and it's really like unraveling all this stuff, this toxic stuff. Why is this car? Fuck you. Oh, whatever. There's also like some family drama because she has an older sister who kind of like ran away because the environment she was in was pretty toxic to her, and how that kind of left the family a little bit like in shambles. But there's also like this cute romance she has with a boy, with kind of like the bad boy, but he's not actually like a bad boy, he just kind of has a reputation. And also the friendship she develops with the girl who's helping her, which is kind of like the good girl from the church who's always goes to church and always does the things at the church and whatever, and how she's actually not as one-dimensional as the protagonist thought she was. And yeah, I don't know, I think it really talks about very important topics in a very like well done way, while also like I said from about the previous books, it's also able to be like pretty lighthearted when it needs to. Like it has humor, it has these like cute moments between the main couple, and also like cute friendship moments in general. The dynamic that these three have, it's very like cute and great, and I really like it. The next book I want to talk about is Edge Case by YZ Shin. This one is about this woman called Edwina who has to kind of cope with the fact that her husband just disappeared without any like notice or anything. Like he didn't tell her anything about where he's going or why he's going away or whatever. And it's kind of like her trying to understand where he is and why he disappeared, and kind of like trying to be herself without her husband. This book was published in 2021, but it feels really like really recent. Like it talks about a lot of stuff like immigration, sexism in the workplace, especially in like tech companies, and it's just great. It's amazing. It's, I think it's the first book I've read, at least. Obviously, I'm talking on in my perspective. Um, which talks about like Malaysia, like Malaysian culture, because both her and her husband are from Malaysia. It's also very like raw. There are some moments where Dávila is clearly like spiraling out of control, but I think it was still like it still like made sense for her to do certain things and feel in certain ways. I feel like the way it's narrated explains perfectly like her thought process. And I don't know, it's also a lot about like people and how people sometimes change, and how whatever you do, like sometimes those people are different people. It's kind of like life, like people change constantly, and sometimes you are not compatible anymore. People change, and that's normal, and sometimes people act out of character. Sometimes we as ourselves act out of character from what we perceive ourselves to be. So yeah, this was a very good book. It's also, I remember the other book being relatively short, so yeah, it's also like a very like quick read from what I remember. Completely devastated, like it was like really like emotional blow after emotional blow. But yeah, it was pretty good. Now, the next book I want to talk about is 8 Days Without Eva Cortes by Sara Alonso. This one is the thriller mystery I talked about, but even though it's like a mystery, I would say it has a very like literary fiction component, because the protagonist is not a detective nor part of the police department. She's a journalist, and it's really about like this woman. So this woman disappeared, and the book is about these 8 days since her disappearance, and about like how the media tends to portray cases like this, how a lot of it's like sensationalized, and they try to get the most clicks and buys and whatever as possible. To do that, they usually like take advantage of like already like biases and prejudices from people, like how people of color get criminalized, and how immigrants too. Also about like a lot of sexism. So yeah, this book is obviously about what happened to this Eva, but it really like takes this point of view of like this newspaper lady, like this reporter, to talk about all of this stuff, how sometimes crimes like this, well, a lot of times true crime exists, right? How we kind of like get this instant. I put the word here, whatever. How we kind of like stop caring really about these cases of like real people who suffer this, and how newspapers or even like podcasts or YouTubers or whatever, and this is also true on the internet, take advantage of these cases to be the most like clickbaity as possible, right? Like to get the most attention from people as possible, to get clicks and to gain money. So yeah, I think it's a very like interesting take with a lot more of like a social component. And the last book I want to talk about is another translated work. It's called Resistance by Rosa. This one, I guess it could also be classified as a historical fiction, as historical, but I haven't read many historicals by themselves. Like I've read historical romance, I've read historical fantasy, like historicals I haven't read that much yet, so I'm also putting it here instead of making its own video because it wouldn't make that much sense. So this one talks about the Portuguese dictatorship, mainly because we have like these two characters who are like in love and whatever, but mostly, at least for me, the relationship was kind of like me. I didn't care. Like for me, the most important part was like how it explored the Portuguese dictatorship, the Salazar dictatorship, and how that affected the characters, the main couple's relationship, how it affects the way, well, in general, like the way they interact with the world. Because as far as I remember, like the guy is like, because the guy is lower class and the girls is upper class, how he, I think he even like ended in prison, so like how that experience was like being in prison during the dictatorship, while in her case her family is more like right leaning, like they are okay with the dictatorship, and how she's not, and kind of like the conflict that arises. I also read this like years ago, but yeah, I remember myself being most interested in like the politics, I guess, or like the historical aspect, the pure historical aspect of like the dictatorship, because it was the first book, and for now the only book I read about this. So yeah, if you are curious about this part of history, this is a great book to read if you want to know more about that. So yeah, that's all for this video. You can comment if you read any of these videos, read any of these videos, if you read any of these books and your opinions of them, or if there are other books you want to recommend to like the public in the comments. Maybe we'll see each other, maybe not. Have a nice day. Goodbye.